Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Rose and Rubini podcast, Making Sense of This World. My name is Manas Chavla, and as always, I'm really pleased to be joined by CEO and Head of Research, Brunella Rosa. Lots going on as ever. Some say we've entered the geopolitical supercycle, certainly the domestic political supercycle within the United States. The presidential debate took place last week. And we know how increasingly important these are. We know the effects that the last debate had between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, leading to Biden dropping out. So now we want to explore what the impact this last debate had. But maybe let's pick off exactly there. How was Kamala Harris doing in the polls, Brunello? What did sort of the sugar rush that you write about in the Views letter? Did it prove to be short-lived post her getting the nomination officially?
Yeah, so we all remember the immense impacts that the first presidential debate had in June. Biden was 100% sure he would run again. He wanted to hear no excuses. He was the candidate. He would go and defeat Trump again. Guess what? Went on TV, disastrous performance, got lost in his arguments. It's seniority, let's put it that way. And some people say the cognitive abilities at this stage were totally exposed. So in the space of a few weeks, the grandees of the Democratic Party say, thank you, Joe. You've been an amazing president. You want to preserve this amazing legacy that you got, but now it's time to step aside. So he did. And he indicated Kamala Harris as his successor, as we all know. She was crowned at a Democratic convention in Chicago, and at that time, it really was a sugar rush. The convention was, I must say, very well orchestrated. There were a plurality of people speaking, and the Milwaukee convention by the Republican was also good, but it was all about Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. It was like one man, at most two men show. That's it. Although very well performed and very well executed, I would say, given that narrative. The Democratic Convention was equally good. And the key difference was, yes, we do have Kamala Harris, but she showed up first day, quick hello to the audience, and then last day, concluding remarks, thank you for the candidacy. I'm happy to be your candidate. But in the middle, there were the Obamas, there were the Clintons, there were lots of governors from the Democratic camp that show that Kamala Harris is not alone. And even if she loses, there's now a second or third generation of these leaders that could potentially step up. So, big sugar rush, people thought, okay, she could make it. But then things went a bit more sour when she was interviewed by the CNN and she appeared much less convincing than during the convention. Even the setting wasn't convincing. She had this gray suit. She was sitting low compared to Valls. So, number of things were really not very well played there, including very vague response on almost everything, even the most basic questions such as what would be the first thing you would do at the White House?
Yeah, I mean, those optics certainly matter, and she's been criticized long for not having a defined policy position on many key areas, and where she does for changing her policy, compared to years before. So these doubts started to merge in about Kamala Harris and her kind of candidacy, but it seems like, the debate things went slightly differently, and many are pulling it as a win for Kamala. So how do you see that contrast, for those initial doubts creeping in, with now kind of maybe second bump that the Harris campaign might be noticing in her favorability after the debate?
So they were, as you said, a number of doubts re-emerging. Kamala Harris was not considered a very strong candidate at all when she ran against Biden the first time. Actually, the only thing she could come about was calling him effectively racist during the campaign. Then she dropped out. Then Biden brought her back just because you remember, in the aftermath of the Floyd killing by the police, clearly Biden wanted to capitalize on the black and women vote, and so she did very well that job. But then she was sidelined for a few years. A few things she was given, including immigration, were not very well handled. So lots of doubt on her abilities to bring this home. But in reality, then, the September 10th debate took place against Trump. That, of course, is a seasoned debater now in presidential debates. He has run the primaries against his own party members already in 2016 successfully, I would say. He eliminated one by one, including party grandees such as Jeb Bush, that was widely considered the front runner. Instead, he proved with his own abrasive rhetoric. I mean, Trump is Trump, but he got rid of all of them, and then he won again a second primary campaign. So he went on to the debate. There was clearly a massively experienced candidate, and a not so very experienced candidate on the other side, Kamala Harris. Instead, she was really surprised on the upside. She were on the aggressive side. She remembered effectively all the tricks that she must have learned during her job as a DA, as Attorney General, and so on. So effectively, and she was on the acquisition side of trials. And so she introduced herself to Trump, say, Kamala Harris, nice to meet you. Something that was very unexpected, because let's not forget, the two contenders have not shaken hands for years now. So that was the first handshake in years. So it was already something that put the debate on a different footing. And then she attacked constantly. She put Trump on the defensive. So, it was a debacle for Trump, a triumph for Kamala Harris. This is not my opinion. This is the CNN opinion poll that was made immediately after, 63 versus 37 for Kamala Harris. Then you go and look at the comments by even the closest allies of and supporters of Trump, and even Fox News, and they couldn't but admit the defeat. The biggest admission was that Trump said, well, I'm not going to have a second debate. Clearly says, because I won the first debate, I don't need a second one. But we know the reality is different. But then who cares about the debate? The point is this going to have an impact on polls? And it had, because Kamala Harris apparently got some advantage first of all, in the national polls that we know are not very relevant, but most importantly in the key swing state, where she's at least at par with Trump. In some occasions, she has gotten quite a clear lead. Now, does it mean that she can win? She can certainly win, but it's still a long race. We have seen with the potential second assassination attempt by Trump, although not a single bullet has been shot. So it's all about theories now, that things can change. Just today, I was reading that the judge in Wisconsin has ruled that Robert Kennedy Jr. will remain on the ballot. The people say could be a blow for Trump, because of course he was counting on his votes. But guess what? Kennedy is a big name for Democrats as well. What if somebody, I would say at this point, mistakenly thinks that this Robert Kennedy Jr. is something that is a true Democrat, or even more democratic than Kamala? You never know. We are talking about literally a few hundreds, maybe some thousand votes. This campaign would be decided on. in 6 swing states. So anything counts and matters. And the last few weeks of this presidential campaign for sure will be very important to watch.
It seems like it'll be an increasingly nail-biting one, with the spread between all six of these states being within the margin of error. And the kind of current national polls really sort of putting them neck and neck, moving here and there every week. There's still an open question as to how many voters are still willing to be swayed. And just like you said, it's likely only the tens of thousands within those swing states that'll decide the election. I remember perhaps the most similar historical analogy we have for this is the election between Al Gore and Bush, which was decided by, I believe, just a few hundred in a particular
On the
state.
votes in Florida, yes.
Correct. So so that poses an interesting outcome with sort of almost 50 days to go. Something we'll keep continuing to cover, I'm sure, uh significantly as time goes on. As always, Bruno, thank you so much for your time and insight.
Thank you. Until next time. Bye bye.